For about a month this summer, the biggest story in American politics was a man who wasn't there. And the second biggest story was another man who could not stand it. Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham. 30 years in the same building, and I want to be clear about what they were actually competing over because it was never policy. These two agreed on most of it. That's what made it personal. What they were fighting over was airtime. One of them moves like a screensaver. The other one showed up to an opening of an envelope. That's the fight. That was always the fight.
When you need common sense, come see Chad Law, the boldest pundit you ever saw. His truth hits hard and the talk is real. Reality rules and that's the appeal. Spreading truth, yeah, that's his cause. Opening eyes, yeah, who needs applause? When you need common sense, then come see Chad. He lays down the law when the lies get bad. The media may think you're dense, so come where it's real with common sense.
I'm Chad Law, the last gay conservative, America's binary brother, the common sense extremist living in radical reality, broadcasting truth on the only rainbow that matters, the red, white, and blue rainbow. And this is Satire Saturday. Now, to understand any of this, you have to understand the habitat, because Washington isn't a government. Washington is Jurassic Park. Same premise, too. A bunch of things that should have gone extinct a long time ago, kept alive at enormous public expense, and everyone acts shocked when it doesn't go well. Nothing in there evolves. It just accumulates. The dinosaurs never leave. The fossils have seniority. The committee chairs have committee chairs. There is a senator down there whose entire job is holding another senator's cane, and he's up for re-election, and he's favored. The interns qualify for Social Security before their bosses even think about retiring. In nature, the old animals wander off to die with dignity. In Jurassic Park, they wander off to a subcommittee and gain power. And in that exhibit, two of the oldest creatures spent 3 decades fighting over the same watering hole, which in this case was a camera. Let's do the tale of the tape, and these are the real numbers. Lindsey Graham appeared on Meet the Press 63 times. 63. That's not a guest, that's a cast member. At some point, NBC should have been withholding taxes. Mitch McConnell's strategy was the exact opposite, and you have to respect the discipline of it. You could not get a quote out of that man with a subpoena and a crowbar. He could filibuster a conversation without opening his mouth. If charisma were electricity, Mitch couldn't power a smoke detector. And he'd have let the battery die on purpose because a smoke detector makes noise, and noise is attention, and attention was Lindsey Graham's department. Lindsey Graham's superpower was availability. This was a man who would drive to your studio, who would host from your studio, who, if the booking fell through, would stand outside the building and comment on the weather until somebody pointed a phone at him. Mitch's superpower was that nobody could ever find him. And for 30 years, that was a stalemate. And then on June 14th, it stopped being a stalemate because Mitch McConnell went into a hospital and simply did not come back out. No explanation, no timeline, nearly a month of almost nothing from his office, which for Mitch is not a red flag, that's a Tuesday. But America could not handle it because we have built an entire industry that requires somebody to be saying something at all times. And here was one of the most powerful men in the country saying nothing on purpose for weeks. The machine broke. Cable news covered his absence the way you'd cover a war. There were panels, there were experts, there were graphics about a man nobody had seen. And the internet went completely feral. He's incapacitated. He's brain dead. He's been dead for weeks and they're hiding it. There were people online doing forensic analysis on the silence. Then his colleagues tried to help, and this is my favorite part because it's real. A bunch of Republican senators put out statements the same week about the long, meaningful conversations they'd each recently had with their dear old friend Mitch. Same idea, same warmth, roughly the same phrasing, which is exactly what you want when the country suspects a cover-up. 5 guys with a shared vocabulary all volunteering that they definitely spoke to him at length. Nothing kills a conspiracy theory like a group project. So that was the state of the ratings war in early July. Mitch McConnell saying nothing, seeing nobody, doing absolutely nothing, dominating every broadcast in America for a month. And Lindsey Graham, who had spent 30 years chasing cameras, could not get arrested. Think about what that does to a man like that. He was being out-talked. He was being out-covered by silence. He was losing the volume war to a guy who hadn't said a word since spring. That's not losing a rivalry. That's losing to the absence of one. He had a Meet the Press hit booked for Sunday morning, 64th appearance. He died Saturday night, 71 years old. And that part isn't a joke, and I'm not going to make it one. But here's what happened next. And this is where the media tells on itself, because within hours, every network in America pivoted. The graphics changed, the panels changed, the chyrons changed. The man who could not get booked opposite an empty hospital room was suddenly the lead story on every channel in the country, all at once, everywhere. After 30 years, Lindsey Graham was finally the biggest story in America. And Mitch McConnell let that stand for about half a day. Because on Sunday night, after a month of total silence, after the panels and the conspiracies and the forensic analysis, Mitch McConnell's office released a photograph. Mitch seated next to his wife, holding the Sunday sports section of the Washington Post. Proof of life photo. The man came back from the dead holding a newspaper. And I need you to appreciate the craftsmanship here, because that is not a statement. He didn't say anything. 30 years of not talking, and he wasn't about to start now. He released an image, one frame, no quotes to argue with, no soundbite to run, nothing for anyone to clip, just a man in a chair holding today's paper like a hostage in a very calm basement. That is a proof of life photo. That's a Castro move. That's what Fidel Castro did in Adidas tracksuit. That is what Hugo Chavez did with his daughters. That is the international standard format for rumors of my death have been exaggerated. Please stop. And the United States Senate just ran the same play. Also, the sports section, not the front page, the sports section, which either means somebody grabbed the nearest thing on the tray, or it means the front page that day was about Lindsey Graham, and Mitch McConnell said absolutely not. And nobody believed it. That's the part that kills me. This man went dark for a month and came back with the photographic evidence, and the internet said, that's AI. They zoomed in on the newspaper. They found a suspicious fold under his index finger. Somebody claimed he'd worn that same checkered shirt in a photo from 2023, so obviously it was recycled. And then people ran the image through an AI enhancer to prove it was AI, and the enhancer hallucinated fake text onto the newspaper, and they held that up as the proof. They used AI to fake evidence that the real photo was faked by AI. We are living in the dumbest possible timeline, and I love it here. Laura Loomer said a photo isn't enough. She wants a video. Which, forgive me, is the single most Washington sentence of the summer. A man releases proof he's alive, and the response is a request for better content. Not glad he's okay, not get well, give us the video. And that right there is the whole rivalry in one image. The country demanding more footage from the man who never wanted to give any on the same weekend it lost, the one man who never stopped. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, everything after this point I made up. Because I've been thinking about the will. And in my version, they gather everyone together for the reading of Lindsey Graham's last will and testament, and the family is sitting there expecting the estate, the property, the assets. Who gets what? There is none of that. What Lindsey Graham left behind was a run of show, not a 21-gun salute, and not for the reason you'd think. He was worried about the audio. Open casket, obviously, you can't get coverage from inside a box. No overhead lighting, which he was very specific about and which he'd been consistent about his entire life. He left a credential list, an actual press list by outlet ranked. He left seating assignments based on the audience reach. He left a note about where to place the riser so the wide shots work. This man did not leave a burial plot. He left a shot list. There's a paragraph in there requesting a B-roll package. He wanted B-roll at his own funeral in case anyone needed cutaways. Family seating was assigned by who cries the best on camera. Front row center, that's your criers. Cousins who hold it together, you're in the back with the interns. And I want to be clear, he wasn't being cruel about it. He was being a producer. There's a difference. Not much of one, but there's one. He left instructions for a moment of silence, followed immediately by instructions to interrupt it. He requested a recap of the funeral during the funeral in case anyone joined late. And then, at the very bottom, the last instruction this man ever gave on earth: if Mitch McConnell attends, he is not to be seated in the frame. 30 years. And the final act was blocking a camera angle. So look, history remembers a lot of rivalries. Hartfields and McCoys, Byrd and Magic, Ford and Ferrari, and these two. One fought with microphones, one fought with silence. One of them spent 3 decades trying to be seen and finally led every broadcast in America. And the other one answered from a chair holding a sports section without ever saying a word. That's Jurassic Park for you. The most dangerous animal in there was never the one making all the noise. It was the one that hadn't moved in a month and was somehow still the lead story. And somewhere tonight, in a control room in the heart of American cable news, there is a producer leaning into his headset asking the only question that ever mattered in this town: can somebody see if Mitch has a reaction? I'm Chad Law, the last gay conservative, America's binary brother. And that was Satire Saturday. God bless you, President Reagan. And as always, may God save America.
It's wonderful. It's marvelous that you should care for me. Yes, you've made my life so glamorous. You can't blame me for feeling amorous. Oh, it's wonderful. It's so marvelous that you should care for me. It's wonderful, it's marvelous, glorious, it's glad.